Standing up in McKinney. This is According to Callus. It is episode 707, coming to you on January the 6th, 2024. Now, for those of you that are following along, that date might sound familiar. There might be some significance to that. Oh, that's right. Happy Insurrection Day, everyone. Happy Insurrection Day. All right. Well, before I get into it, let me just tell you. I'm back. I'm going to do what I can to keep fighting the good fight, but I need your help. I need you to follow, like, share, subscribe, do all those good things. Come join me over on the social media of your choice. I have a page and a group over at Facebook. I'm a pro at Gab. I drop in at MeWe. Today is going to be short and sweet. I'm looking to clock it in here at probably about 12 minutes. Why? Well, one, I have lots of things going on tonight. And two, I couldn't not put something out on this day, but I just don't have for a full episode. It's not up. How can we not mark this day, right? I mean, keep in mind, there are still victims of government abuse that are locked up and had their rights abused and ignored. There's going to be consequences for that at some point. Somebody is going to have to pay a price for that. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's going to happen. And, you know, the Donald, he was verified today as the winner. He'll show up. He'll be inaugurated. And probably the first day he's going to get all those people out of there. But they should have never been there in the first place. And I would love to see massive lawsuits come out and go after these people. The problem is they're all protected by the same nonsense that many other elected officials are. They have this qualified immunity, right? They can do anything they want as long as, quote unquote, we're doing it under the color of law. Oh, wait, no, that's a different rule. But the point is they can't hardly ever be held accountable. That's a problem. We'll talk about that more as time comes on. What I need you to understand is three separate things. One, January the 6th, 2020, there was not an insurrection. However you want to clarify that, I don't know how. Even the dictionary, if you go read the example in there, would be hard-pressed to give you enough elements to come to any reasonable conclusion that that's what happened on January the 6th, 2020. A protest, perhaps even a riot, might be acceptable, but an insurrection, no, not at all. And the fact that the media played that for multiple years as if it was true and there were a number of people that were gullible enough to buy it is just depressing and a sad commentary. But that's where we're at. That's what we got to deal with. It's never going to end if we don't push back. Now, look, the Donald's in office again. I'm glad that we got Mr. Trump back, but he cannot and he will not fix everything. He is not the savior of the Union. He's not the savior of the Republic. He's not the savior of these United States. At best, he's a stopgap measure to buy us some time. At best, he is a roadblock to the progressive nonsense that's been going on nearly unabated, well, since the time of Wilson, right? Okay, so we know that it's not true. There was not, in fact, an insurrection 4 years ago. To claim otherwise is just plain foolish. Second thing, it's not real. What do I mean by that? Look, whether you want to believe it was a riot or not, whether you want to believe it got out of hand or not, I'm going to let you draw your own conclusion. But there are plenty of videos and evidence out there suggesting and showing that the people that were charged with protecting the Capitol and policing the people invited them in, escorted them around, basically acted like tour guides. And the vast majority of the people that went in stayed within the guided tour lines. I mean, I'm not going to justify and make okay people that abused it. I'm not going to say that they should get, quote unquote, a free pass. But in the day that was going on of 2020 and all the crazy, I'm sorry, it was 2021, January 6, 2021. Today is January 6, 2025. I apologize, those dates, they should live in infamy. But the reality is, there were no cops killed. There were very few people hurt. The only people that actually died were the protesters. The only people that were executed, so to speak, were peaceful protesters. Now, you can argue that they were only mostly peaceful, using their own standard language. But after all the protests and all the crazy that went on in quote-unquote the summer of love, to put the jackboot on these people and punish them and not recognize they have rights, not recognize that the Constitution still matters, who are we trying to fool here? It wasn't real. The reaction wasn't real. The fact that they took their sweet time collecting these people up and ruining their lives, because remember, oftentimes the process is the punishment. They weren't interested in justice. They weren't interested in the truth because it was never real in the first place. The last thing, number 3. We can't forget. We have to hold them accountable. What do I mean? There are a whole lot of people that deserve to be ignored, namely the media. There's a whole lot of people that can be safely ignored, i.e. that leftist progressive down the street from you, the person that will never, ever see sense. They will never, ever speak rationally. They're not worth your effort. Ignore them. The people that can't be ignored, the people that need to be held accountable, are the media that put forth lies. They are the people that manipulate the media, that encourage them to lie and propagate our own people. Go look up the way the propaganda rules and laws changed under a previous president to where we are subject to our own propaganda now. The stuff that for decades we were only allowed to do overseas are at home right here, right now. And everything that's gone on for at least the last 10 years proves that out. Please pay attention. Those people can't be ignored. The people that abused their power, the people that killed people for protesting, those people need to be held accountable. There needs to be an investigation, not this faux pas garbage stuff that was put forth by the fake Cheney, the fake Republican Cheney, and her little band of merry men. Those people need to be held accountable too, because they lied to the American public. They manipulated events. They hid and destroyed evidence, and they're walking free. In fact, some of them are still elected officials, and they've had zero consequence. I have a friend of mine who says, you can't fix anything until you go back and fix 2020. Nothing matters if you don't fix 2020. Now, as a practical matter, I can't undo what happened in 2020. As a understanding of where we are in the world today, we can't make the last 4 years disappear. But what we can do is right the ship. What we can do is correct those errors. What we can do is cause people to pay a consequence for not only bad behavior, but for cheating the system, abusing the system, violating people's rights, violating the law, and quite frankly, taking on the Constitution. Right? If we're going to be bound by a Constitution, if we're going to have to obey these laws, then they should apply equally to everyone. The notion of equal justice is often dismissed or poo-pooed as being, a redundant statement. Well, I get it, and I understand it, but I think that there's a whole lot of people out there, right? When we talked about the tiers of people, the quote-unquote unwashed masses, the uninformed voters, they don't know that. They don't understand that justice is in fact supposed to be blind. Justice is supposed to be a fair and even-handed way that things are done. But what we all see, what we all acknowledge is that's not what's happening. We've been trained to believe the lie. Let me ask you something. Who's worse? The guy that orders millions of people to be executed or the guy that actually does it? Who's worse? The guy that quote unquote creates a cure for something that is in fact not a cure, the guy that lies and manipulates data in order to get people to essentially commit suicide, long-term suicide. Who's worse, that guy or the people that followed and bought the story? I would suggest to you that in the clown world we live in, these people will continue to get away with these things unless and until we're willing to set aside our minor political differences and hold them accountable. Holding them accountable should start with bankrupting them, perhaps incarcerating them, and if necessary, punishing them over and above that. There are people that have been out and about that have walked free, became rich on the destruction of others, on the pain and sorrow of others. It's not like we're at war here, right? It's not like we're pretending that we're having a police action somewhere, so these people have to die, well, for American excellence, mind you. No. This is our own people. We sacrificed our own people for whatever this is. I don't pretend to know. I don't pretend to understand. But it's clear to me that there was a whole lot of people in power that were in positions of authority that knew what was really going on, and they just didn't care. Whether it was reckless or intentional, I don't know. Whether it was just indifference, I don't know. Whether it was they legitimately wanted to wipe out a section of the population, I just don't know. But what I do know is if we don't investigate, if we don't spend some time looking into this, we're never, ever going to have those answers. What I would suggest to you is rather than do anything rash, rather than violate the law yourself, rather than do something that would cause pain and sorrow to your family, just pay attention. Just follow. Just lobby for justice to be brought. Ensure that there's a consequence for this behavior. You know, much was said about the CEO of United Healthcare. I don't have any dog in the hunt there. If I legitimately thought the guy was a destroyer of people's lives, I could maybe find a way to not hate the guy that took justice into his own hands. But see, in our country, we still believe that there's a process, and we're supposed to follow the process. And the process will bring about justice, and that justice will have to serve for us while we're here on this earth. The frustration that many people have out there is that justice never really happens. It never really comes about for these kinds of folks. They never have to face a consequence. They hide behind corporate responsibilities. They hide behind this immunity. They hide behind the fact that they're rich beyond what most people can ever imagine. And while some people become rich by helping other people, by making everybody's lives better, and I have zero issue with any of that, and some people just get rich by happenstance. And again, I have no issue with that. But when you get rich by hurting other people, by damaging other people's lives, that's a problem. And the fact that we cannot or will not address that or look into it or consider that when we're making the decisions that we get to make as a voting public is a problem. Now, I'm not suggesting that I really know what was going on there, because I don't. And I'm not suggesting to understand what goes on in, the healthcare system. I don't. And I'm not going to pretend to justify one man's actions to take out another man without any form of due process. But what I can tell you, and one thing that I can wrap my head around, is if this was retribution, if there was somebody special in that person's life that faced death or maiming because of the actions of somebody that made a call to save his company $10, times 1 million customers, mind you, I could wrap my head around that. I still wouldn't be okay with it. I still wouldn't justify it. I still wouldn't say he's a hero or any of that nonsense, because that's not true. But I could at least be empathetic to what he was going through. But again, to the best of my knowledge, we don't know any of that. And what's very, very interesting to me is the very people that are championing this guy's cause, that are giving this man a free pass, that are lauding him, are the same people that cheered when they went and hunted down people that attended an unauthorized tour of the Capitol building on January the 6th, 2021. And they were excited about the fact that justice was ignored, that rule of law was set aside, that process didn't really matter. We just had to get these dangerous, terrible people off the road, off the streets, out of their homes, destroy their families while they're at it. These same people seem to be so convinced that we need to be more concerned about people coming here from foreign countries with or without proper paperwork than the people that are already here. The people that are concerned about their very country being destroyed because of the same actions of our government that just can't seem to control itself. Yes, the clown world carries on. And the only thing that's left is two options. One, you can try and again, this for the purposes of this discussion today, I'm sure there are more other options. I don't want to get into that. But option one, just walk away, shut off, pretend nothing happens. Try and go live in your own little world. See how well that works out for you. I suppose option B might be to just embrace it and suck yourself into that. But we're going on the assumption that you don't want to participate on that. So then option B is fight, fight, fight. Hopefully it doesn't become literal and then we can stick with figuratively. Perhaps we could just use it as a metaphor for getting things done. But this is the world we live in. This is our country as we know it. We have to be willing to do what needs to be done to protect our liberty. We have to do what must be done in order to protect our family, our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. We can do that, but it's going to come with a cost. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm encouraging you. Accept that there is a cost. No matter what you do, there is always going to be a cost. Look at it as an investment. What is your investment if you continue to go along and do nothing? It's low, but what is your cost? Very high. What is your investment if you walk away and try and go do your own thing and, ignore everything around you? Well, again, the cost is relatively low. Not a good opportunity for you to get away. So accept the cost. Take the fight. The risk or the reward, if you will, is slim. It's slim that we win. It's slim that you get a positive outcome. But the reward, if you're successful, is immeasurable. Just think on that for a little bit. And with that, this has been According to Callus, and I will see you on the other side.